All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am here, your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live the Iron Life. And before we get into today's show, I want to tell you guys a little bit about Thorne supplements. So, first off, if you've ever looked into supplements, if you paid any attention to this stuff, guys, you probably realize by now that most supplements are dog shit. Most supplements will have things that are in there that are not on the label. Things like heavy metals, things like fillers, and shit like that most people are just completely unaware of. So Thorne is one of the best supplement companies around, in my opinion. And so I decided to join forces with Thorne because we've been looking for a long time for a supplement company that we could really stand behind, and kind of because our clients are always coming to us. A lot of you guys are always reaching out asking about what protein powder to use or what vitamins I take, what supplements. So we wanted to get a company that we could really stand behind, that we could truly promote and be proud to promote them. So Thorne was our go-to. And so if you guys are interested in getting some quality supplements by Thorne, dude, could I edit that? Yeah, you're fine. I lost my whole train of thought with where I wanted to take that.
You can start over if you like.
Please, if that's cool with you, let's do that.
Fine,
All right. I wish I had a read from them, but they didn't give me one. I'm trying to promote them like naturally.
Do you want me to? Do they have a website? I can pull their website up, and you can just spitball like off their website.
See if they have something like a with an E at the end.
Thorne, right there. Supplements.
Yeah.
They have like a info page.
I thought they would send me like a podcast read, but
Got this.
healthy.
So it's probably super far.
Yeah, I don't know if that's deep portfolio of personal offerings. To live longer. It doesn't say anything about their testing or something like that. These are just their subs. All right. Fuck it. I'm just going to roll with it. I wish there was like a better read where I could explain their company,
You don't really have.
All right. We'll roll with it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. I am here, your host, Chris Tutela, here to help you live an iron life, a better life, a stronger life. And before we kick off today's episode, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about Thorne supplements. So, if you guys have been paying any attention to supplements, if you've taken supplements in the past, then you probably know that most supplement companies out there are dog shit. There are plenty of things that are found in supplements, and I'm talking about like industry-wide, unfortunately, that are not on the label. Like, these are things in there that you'd be like, why am I consuming this? Well, it's in your protein powder that you're taking every day, and you had no idea that it was in there. So we wanted to stand behind a company that we truly believe in, that we know that what's on the label is what you're getting. And Thorne is a company where they truly prioritize and value purity. Their company is top notch. If you guys know anything about Thorne, they've been around for a long time. And, this is a company that, because a lot of our clients would reach out to us. They would ask us what protein powder should they be taking, what vitamins should they be taking. We would always be, kind of dissecting different brands for different things that we like to use, that I like to personally use. And so we finally said, look, we got to find a company that we could get behind and just give the best quality products to our clients, to our followers, people who reach out to us online. So Thorne was our obvious choice. Right now, I'm taking their whey protein isolate. I'm taking their multivitamin Elite. I do take their beta alanine. What else am I taking currently? Vitamin B complex. I'm taking their vitamin C. They are the company that I am currently using right now. They do have a line that's certified by NSF, so certified for sport. So again, that's just like an extra layer of third-party testing and purity for all their supplements. So with that being said, if you're looking for a new supplement company, if you're looking for a quality supplement company for 2024 and beyond, then what I want you to do is head over to this URL. Make sure you write this down because I don't want you to forget it. It's Thorne with an E at the end, THORNE, thorne.com/u/tutela. And that's the letter U, not the word U. So thorne.com/the-letter-U/tutela, TUTELA. And for the month of January, I'm hooking you guys up with 15% off of all Thorne supplements. So that'll take you right to my page. You create your account and grab whatever you want to grab that fits your needs. I definitely recommend the whey protein. It tastes great. Their multivitamin, I would say that is probably a go-to for most people. But you know yourself and you know what you need. And if you don't, you can feel free to hit me up on Instagram and I could point you in the right direction. But head over to thorne.com/u/tutela to get 15% off only for the month of January. And yeah, make sure you head over, grab your stuff, and let's get you sliced and diced for 2024. Now, with that being said, speaking of getting sliced and diced, that brings me to today's topic. So here we are, the new year, it's 2024. You, if you're like most people, probably want to get leaner. You probably want to drop some body fat, and this is the fucking year you're going to do it. And today I'm going to give you my fat loss blueprint so you can get everything dialed in to hit your goals this year, drop the body fat, and get as lean as you want to get, baby. So let's get into this stuff. I'm going to give you guys a step-by-step process here on how you can get the leanest you've ever been in your entire life in the next 90 days or 6 months, depending on how much body fat you have to lose. But it is possible, no matter where you are, to get you lean AF, get you shredded, and look fucking great come beach season this year. So let's get into it, guys. Step number 1, assess. And by the way, as I'm going through this, make sure you have your notebooks out. Make sure you're writing this shit down, because if you forget one of these steps and you think you're just going to remember this stuff, it's probably not going to happen. It's kind of showing how serious you truly are about shedding the weight this year and getting lean. So if you're serious and you really want to make a difference this year, write this shit down. Pay attention, okay? Step number 1, assess. So let's talk about what to assess, because if you're just going into this and you're not aware, you're unaware of your current patterns, your current habits, the things that are holding you back right now and where you currently are, if you're dishonest with yourself, then it's going to be hard to move forward. See, most people are really dishonest with where they're at. I'll use nutrition for an example. Anytime we have a new client come in, We have a conversation with them. We kind of find out, like, what does your current diet look like? And they're like, well, I eat chicken, I eat salad, I eat some scrambled eggs, I have fruit a lot, I like a lot of vegetables. And then I'm like, dude, you're here because you're 40 pounds overweight. You didn't get 40 pounds overweight because you're eating chicken and salad and fruit. Tell me what the fuck you eat every day. And then they'll tell me, yeah, well, okay, so I do once in a while, not every day, but I like to have a cookie for lunch. And yeah, I guess at night is when I really like to snack, and I'll eat a fucking gallon of ice cream. And I'm like, okay, so here we go. So the first thing is that you have to be honest with yourself during your assessment. And so that is going to require you kind of taking this stuff and writing it down and breaking it down, being brutally honest with where you are currently at and accepting that as your current reality, as who you are and what you do. Most people don't like that, right? If you're like most people, then you're not going to like the truth. It stings a little bit. Who does, right? But if you open your mind to that idea and say, all right, look, this is who I am. This is what I've been doing. This is what has gotten me here. And if I keep going down this path, nothing's going to change. So I got to make a change right now. And that starts with being honest. So different things to assess. One would be your current sleep. How many hours of sleep are you getting? What time are you going to bed specifically? And what time are you waking up? And even if you don't have a sleep tracker or something like that yet, just rate the quality of your sleep. Okay, so the duration and sleep quality. Okay, that would be one thing that I would assess. Another thing is, what are you eating daily, right? So for the next couple days, write down every single thing that you consume. Everything that you shove into your pie hole, write it down. Beverages too. Because if you're drinking coffee and it has a friggin' pint of heavy cream and 5 tablespoons of sugar, well, we need to know that. If you're drinking stupid shit like Gatorade or soda, we need to know that. By the way, if you're a fucking adult and you're drinking soda, it's time to step up, okay? It's time to step up. Water, black coffee, maybe some green tea, that's it, okay? But anyway, I digress. Write down everything that you consume. Then I want you to gauge and assess your current movement and activity. So one would be your daily step count. How many steps are you taking per day? If you have a smartphone, it's already tracking this for you. You don't need a Fitbit. Just go to the Health app. That's at least what it is on the iPhone. See how many steps you're taking per day. If it's less than 7,500, we know that we have to make an improvement there, okay? But track your daily step count. And I also want you to track your training, all right? What does your training look like? How many days in a week are you training? And for how long? And exactly what are you doing? Get clear on that. And if it's nothing, then it's nothing. But you got to get clear on it. If you're listening to the show, I'm sure you're doing something, right? You're probably training. So we're assessing your sleep. We're assessing your nutrition, your daily movement, and your training, all right? That's our starting point. One more thing. You're going to assess your level of stress. So just give yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being stressed out of your fucking mind would be a 10. Rate yourself on that scale. And you're going to do this for a couple of days, guys. 3, 4, 5 days, a week. A week is probably going to give us the best data. And you could continue to do these assessments as you go. But we have to kind of have a clear starting point. So start with doing this today, and you could track the best you could over the last week or the last couple days, and then just build upon it every week so we have some data as we're going. All right? So that's the first step. You have to be honest with yourself. You have to be clear. Another thing I forgot in assessments, what are my distractions? Where am I wasting time? So check your screen time at the end of the day. How much time did you spend on social media? How much time did you spend watching Netflix? How many times or how much time did you spend cleaning out your email inbox or responding to emails that really didn't matter all that much, or responding to text messages or taking random phone calls? How much time did you spend in meetings that really served no purpose? Really dissect how you're spending your time, and you could just do that for the next couple days. It's a little bit of a pain in the ass, guys, but I promise you it's worth it. Set an alarm on your phone every 30 minutes. And every 30 minutes, just stop and write down exactly what you're doing in that moment, right? This will give you some clarity on where you're spending your time, how productive you're being, where you're wasting your time, and so forth. All right, so get really clear on those buckets. That is step one. Now, step two is going to be your nutrition, okay? This is one of the hardest things for 99% of people. And it's difficult because they tend to overcomplicate things. So there's different camps of people. There's the person that's like the fucking hypochondriac that is so worried about every gram of fat, every gram of carbs, every gram of protein, every calorie is accounted for. And there's people that really obsess over that. And then there's people that they have no clue where to start, where to begin, and they make so much stress. They're so stressed over how to just stick to something, and they make excuses and they keep going back in this circle. So we have to just dial in, regardless of what type of person you are. We have to just get focused on the basics. We have to get dialed in with the basics before we could take it a step further and worry about the specifics, right? Because there's advanced approaches. And if you want to call it advanced, right? But I call it advanced. I'm talking about carb cycling. Carb cycling is one of my favorite ways to get people lean. Now, I say that it's advanced because most people have so much trouble and worry about measuring, their carbs and how much is this and how much is that, and they get overwhelmed, they get confused. So we call it advanced, but it's really not that advanced. It's just, there's days where you're eating less carbs and days that you're eating more. And it's as simple as that. Typically, I like to do 3 days low, 1 day high, and I follow that cycle. Now, with that being said, we could really just simplify this first, okay, before we talk about that, right? So whether you want to call that advanced or just a little bit more in depth, that's up to you. So with step two, we're going to eat to get lean. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about it in principles instead of hard diet rules, instead of a specific type of diet, carnivore, keto, paleo, vegan, this, that, all this fucking debate out there. Guys, I'll tell you, if you're arguing for one of these diets, but you're at home eating fucking Snickers, then it doesn't matter. You have to get your shit dialed in. So stop. I knew a guy once. I won't say his name. He was a friend and client of mine, and he was probably, I want to say 150 pounds overweight. Like he was big, he was heavy. And he was this die-hard keto advocate. And he would argue keto, and he would talk about how much weight he lost, but he always looked the same. Maybe he lost a few pounds here and there, but he was always losing the same few pounds. You know what I mean? So he was this hardcore keto advocate where he would argue that keto is the best and that he can't eat sweet potatoes because keto was the best diet out there and he couldn't eat fruit and he couldn't do this. And he was passionately arguing with people. Like I saw him arguing with people on social media. I don't know how I got sucked into that, but I saw him arguing with people on social media. He would even give me pushback when I would tell him, we would talk about eating more carbohydrate. And he would fucking argue so hard that it was like you would think that if you saw this guy, he would have ripped abs, his blood work would be perfect, he would be optimized, healthy, but he wasn't. He was 150 pounds overweight. Obviously, he wasn't following, and and I'm not saying that because, he was following keto and it wasn't working. No, he just was eating shit. It was clear. He wasn't actually even following a ketogenic diet. He was just eating shit, but he would stand behind this keto camp and argue it. So my point is, if you are not doing the thing that you're arguing, how do you know how effective it really is? And how could you really, truly believe in it if you're not actually doing it? Anyway, my point is, we don't need to stand behind a specific diet like keto or anything else. We just need to follow general principles first. Once you have the principles dialed in, we could then take different approaches based on you, your goals, your blood work, if you have any food sensitivities, any food allergies or something like that. But let's get the basics dialed in. So the first thing is to eat real food. And when I say eat real food, here's the thing. People talk about how many cheat meals should I have and this and that. Dude, if you're eating like shit for the last 30 fucking years of your life, why do you need a cheat meal? You don't. Your entire life has been a cheat meal. So it's time to get disciplined. It's time to get dialed in. And you're going to eat real food 100% of the time for at least the next 6 weeks before we even consider a cheat meal. What is real food? Anything you could hunt or kill, pick from the dirt, fruits, vegetables, animal-based proteins, single ingredient whole food. Okay? There's a caveat to that because a whey protein powder has more than one ingredient. That's not earth grown, but it is a supplement. And if you get a good one, with just a few ingredients like Thorne, then we have a good quality whey protein that you can supplement with. Okay? So with that being said, real food for the most part, that's what's going to make up most of your diet. What's the ingredient in beef? Beef. What's the ingredients in broccoli? Broccoli. Okay? We are omnivores. You're going to eat plants. You're going to eat animal sources. You're going to eat fruits. Okay? But eat real food. People get hung up on different arguments and standing behind different diets, but they're still eating foods that are made with hydrogenated oils, corn oil, vegetable oils, sugars, high fructose corn syrup. Like, we got to avoid the shit first. Like, let's get past that. Before anything else, let's get past eating shit. Okay, that's the first step. Now, principle number 2 is you're going to eat roughly 4 meals per day. And when I say 4 meals, listen, in a perfect world, we'd have 4 meals of real whole foods. It might not be practical for you. So instead of 4 meals of whole foods, if that's not possible, we could do 3 and then 1 shake. If that's still difficult for you, you could do 2 meals of real food or whole foods and 2 shakes or, high protein snacks. We're going to eat roughly 4 meals per day. Okay? With that said, at each one of those meals, there should be a source of lean protein. Roughly 30 to 50 or more grams of protein per meal. Remember that your goal is to get roughly 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight per day. So we're just dividing that number over those 4 meals. And if we're getting in that range of 30 to 50 grams in each one of those meals, then we're on the right track, okay? Because if we're trying to get down to 200, okay, if you have a lot of body fat on you, then that's 50 grams per meal is going to get you to that number, okay? So 30 to 50 should do it, but be mindful of your protein intake. Now, principle number 3, this is a big one because people get pretty confused when it comes to how much. And again, we're trying to simplify this. So yes, your caloric intake matters. Yes, you need to be in a calorie deficit if you want to lose fat. Some of you, however, have been chronically dieting for the last decade. Some of you guys have been eating like pure shit for the last decade. So to give you guys some general advice, let me backtrack. Sorry. Those of you who have been chronically dieting, odds are if you want to get leaner, we have to increase your calories because we can't put you into a deeper deficit if you've been in a drastic deficit for years, destroying your hormones, increasing cortisol production, beating up your metabolism, and all that, right? So we are probably going to need to get you more calories and more food. On the flip side, the person who's been overeating pure shit, we need to A, get you more micronutrients, the vitamins, the minerals that are found within foods, and we need to get you enough of those nutrients, and B, we need to get those macros dialed in too without actually mapping them out and dialing them in by just eating more protein, getting you some more fruits and vegetables. We're going to be getting in more fiber. We're going to be getting in more vitamins. We're going to be getting in more protein. So we're going to get you some healthy fats, and we're cutting out all the bullshit. So we could kind of cover this with a blanket statement. So instead of counting calories right away, what I would like you to do, because I'm giving you this advice here on a podcast, what I would like you to do is just eat until you feel satisfied. That means after each meal, you shouldn't be stuffed, but we shouldn't be starving. A good rule of thumb is like, hey, if I could get a workout in within an hour after I eat, then I probably ate the right amount. Like I probably hit that sweet spot. But the goal is to not be hungry. Okay? Remember that when you consume more protein, and hold on, let me take a step back. The goal is to not be starving. If you've been eating pure shit for the last few years or however long, you're accustomed to eating an abundance of empty calories. You're accustomed to coating your stomach with grease and oil and all these calories in every single meal. So it is normal in the beginning to be a little bit hungry. You should not be starving, like, oh my God, I'm so hungry. But you may be a little bit hungry. Now, protein will help, if you're hitting those numbers that we talked about, protein will help you feel more satiated throughout the day. Okay? So you'll feel better by eating enough protein. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important to hit your protein goals. Now, there's a million other reasons, right, why protein is important. But another thing that I want you to consider, because remember, the goal is to get lean. That's what we're talking about here, the fat loss blueprint. You got to consider the thermic effect of food. What does that mean? It means that when the body digests certain nutrients, it requires more energy to actually break down and digest the foods that you consume. Protein has a very high thermic effect of food, okay? So, or it has a very high thermic effect, rather. So when you consume protein, it's actually going to require more energy to break it down and digest it. So that's another reason, right? Because now you're burning more calories through eating, okay? The foods that you consume, it's not apples to apples. It's not calorie for calorie. Because if we have a gram of protein versus a gram of fat, it's going to require more of those calories to break down and digest the protein than it is the fat. All right, so that's just something that's really important. Most people don't realize or understand that. So, and when we're talking about building muscle, body composition, recovery from your training, like all these things, protein is just going to play a major role in that. All right, so it's really important that you guys pay close attention to that and realize where we're going. And speaking of where we're going, I forgot where the fuck I was going with that, because I was talking about two different people. We said that there's the chronic dieters. Anyway, I don't know. But hopefully you guys get the point. Those are the principles. Eat to get lean. So you're going to eat real food. You're going to eat lean protein at each meal. And we're going to have about 4 healthy meals per day. And you're going to eat until you are satisfied, okay? That's where I was going with that because we were talking about calories. So the basic way to get this dialed in is first focus on your protein, okay? But with that, with as far as carbohydrate, fat, vegetables, fruits, things like that, look, you're going to get most of your fat for now, just for now, from stuff like whole eggs. You're going to get fat from, if you're eating beef, you'll get some fat there. You'll get some, but I do recommend, by the way, you go with leaner sources of protein. Okay, so there will be some fat in your beef, but it shouldn't be like 80-20. That's too much. We won't go off down that road right now, but just keep it lean. But you'll get vegetables, you get fruit, and with that being said, just eat until you're satisfied. I want you to eat some carbohydrate, so feel free to work in some rice, some sweet potato, some Japanese yams. Those are my favorite. Oats, fruits, things like that. Okay, so we're gonna work that in. We're gonna eat until satisfied. Now let's get to the next step. So step one was to assess. Step 2 was to eat to get lean. Step 3, more movement and more conditioning. Okay, and I just put this in the same category. Now, we know that your strength training is going to be your meat and potatoes, but if we're just talking about big picture, we have to look at where to just begin. Like what is the foundation that you need to create in your life, okay? So we know that strength training is important, and I'm not skipping that step. We're going to talk about it in a minute. And I kind of debated whether this should be step 3 or step 4, but I put this here at step 3 because I just feel like it's an easy win for a lot of people. So more movement and more conditioning. So like I talked about earlier, your step count. It's an easy step, no pun intended. It's an easy step to increase that step count, right? So the first thing, when we go back to your assessment, we look at how many steps you're currently taking per day, okay? Now, if it's like 2,000, like that's a thing that we need to work on right now. You're not moving enough. We got to get that number up to around 7,500, ideally 10,000 or more. But 7,500 is like that first layer. Now, I mentioned conditioning here, but the first thing is just increasing that step count. Like this should be a staple in everybody's life. Yes, this is going to help you get lean, but for overall health, I mean, listen, we know that there's studies that will show you how just simply moving and walking more will improve cardiovascular health. It also, most people don't understand this, but spending more time outside actually reduces your cortisol levels. So spending more time outside is also going to help you reduce your stress. And that stress hormone cortisol can be very problematic for many reasons as far as health goes, but also for fat loss. Because if those cortisol levels are high, it's going to affect how much body fat you could actually lose and how lean you can get. So we got to bring those cortisol levels down. And just by getting outside and taking a walk and increasing that step count, it's been shown to do that. All right. But also, if you do this, so I like to hit my walks throughout the day, but first I always take a fasted walk in the morning. That's the first thing I like to do. I like to hydrate. I get outside. I go for like a 15, maybe 20 minutes, but usually 15-minute walk at a good fast pace. All right. If you're walking your dog and you're stopping every 10 seconds, it doesn't really help as much, but if that's what you got to do, it's what you got to do. But I'd rather you move and, just consistent movement for 15, 20 minutes. Hell, even if you have 5, 10 minutes, that's better than nothing. But I like to hit a fasted walk every morning, okay? Then throughout the day, I just have walks where I break up my work. So I'll take a walk in the afternoon, and then usually I'll take a long walk with the dogs in the evening to hit my 10,000 steps. But with that being said, guys, that is a really important thing for many reasons, right? So it's simple ways to do it. First thing, just start moving more. First thing, wake up 10 minutes earlier, go for a 10-minute walk, okay? I know where I was going with that. I keep losing my train of thought today. But what I was going to say is hit the fasted walk, and then after your meals, okay, or even after some of your meals, we know that you can regulate blood glucose better if we start moving and we have some more muscular contraction. So just going for a walk after meals can help you regulate blood glucose levels. So if you do have elevated blood glucose, or if you're just trying to stay healthy, keep these things in check, it's important to realize that. And after you eat, move. Just move a little bit. If it's pouring rain or something, maybe you do a couple body weight squats, just kind of move. But going for a walk fasted and then after your meals could be a really productive way to do this. And if you can't, just break it up however you can. The important thing is that you're moving more. Okay. Now, I put conditioning in this same bucket, but I probably should have added this as another step. But for those of you who already have your daily steps in check, it's really not enough. So level 1, get your steps in check. Okay. Level 2, if your steps are in check, your training's on point, we got to get your conditioning ramped up a little bit. So most people don't do enough cardio, and some people do too much cardio. So where's the happy medium here? Well, your strength training is the meat and potatoes. You're doing that 3 days a week. Okay, 2 days a week, maybe another 3 days per week. We are also focused on conditioning. So conditioning is going to be where we're actually doing energy system work. So we're either focusing on your aerobic system or your anaerobic systems. But we're doing the development of those different systems through conditioning. Now, I've recorded previous episodes on conditioning. I'm not going to go too deep into that today. Maybe I will again in the future. But if you want to go back and listen, I have no idea what episode number it is, if I'm being completely honest, but I did a full episode. I also wrote 2 articles, I believe, on conditioning and on the development of energy systems on EliteFTS.com. So if you just search Elite FTS Chris Tutela conditioning, you'll probably see those articles pop up. And you could do the same thing with the podcast. Iron Life Podcast, Chris Tutela conditioning, and see what comes up. You'll probably find it. But we want to make sure we're getting that. We want to get that dialed in. And, you know, this episode is obviously about the fat loss blueprint and getting lean. But you can get lean. If I'm being completely honest, you can get lean fucking walking the dog and getting your diet dialed in for the most part. It's not going to be optimal, and you're probably not going to look the way you want to look, but it can be done is my point. So you don't need more cardio to get lean. The point of I'm adding conditioning is, yes, it could help you get lean because it could help you burn more calories. But the other thing is that it prioritizes your health. That's the most important thing. Cardiovascular health, the development of your heart. Remember, there's different adaptations through different types of conditioning. So if you're just looking at like your heart rate, and we have your different heart rate zones, if we're training in different zones and with different intensities, that's going to have a different effect or adaptation on the heart. So with that being said, it's important to have your heart adapt to these different styles of training, or these different levels of intensity rather. All right. So that's going to strengthen the heart, strengthen the cardiovascular system. And so that's why conditioning is important. Not necessarily to get lean, but it can help. Make sense? I hope so. So the next step here, guys, train to get strong and jacked. All right. So with that being said, train to get strong and jacked. You've heard me talk about this before over and over again, but we're going to talk about it more because it's that important. Some of you may be a first-time listener to the show. So the amount of muscle you have on your frame dictates your metabolic rate, right? So more muscle could lead to more calories burned while at rest. Make sense? Beautiful. So that's the first reason why, okay, when it comes to fat loss. We could increase our metabolic rate by adding more muscle to your frame. Now, if you're listening to the show, you probably don't want to look weak, skinny, and fat. A little gut, right? We don't want to be skinny fat. You want to be lean. You want to be athletic. You want to be powerful, strong, jacked. For the ladies listening, quote unquote, toned, which means we lose fat, we build muscle. But the look of your frame, if you want to look lean, shredded, defined, whatever the fuck you want to call it, if you want to look that way, then we need muscle. We need more muscle on your frame. So it's going to accelerate your metabolic rate, but it's also going to change body composition. So if you put on 10 pounds of muscle this year and we lose 10 pounds of fat, you're the same exact weight on the scale, right? You were 200 when you started, but over the year, we gained 10 pounds of muscle. We lost 10 pounds of fat. You're still 200 pounds, but you look like a different human being. So that is the significance of changing your body composition and training to get strong and jacked. But remember, additionally, that your training isn't the thing necessarily that is going to get you to lose fat, because I think so many people get caught up in how many calories did I burn this workout, or how sweaty am I, how exhausted did I get. Those things do not define the productivity of that training session. What is the goal of the workout? Well, your goal in your training, right, for the most part, the meat and potatoes I'm talking about, for lack of a better term, I know it's like my default there, but your meat and potatoes for your training is high quality strength training to get strong, to build muscle. But think about your training as a way to prevent injuries. It's a way to fix those weak links. Think of them as a way to improve. Think of your training as a way to improve your mobility, as a way to improve your stability as well. Again, injury prevention. So we're getting more mobile, we're getting more stable. We can move better, we feel better, we're less prone to injury, we're strengthening the body from head to toe. So now we could do things better in life from day to day. You could play sports better if you guys are weekend warriors or still athletes or former athletes, but we could play with our kids better. We could move up a flight of stairs better. We could help our friends move furniture. In an emergency situation, we will do better because we're stronger. Strength is a key element to a better life. So your training should reflect that. It's not about how many calories you burn. Your diet is going to dictate how much fat you lose along with some of these other things here. So don't worry about how many calories you're burning. Don't worry about how sweaty you get, but follow a progressive overload principle so you are getting stronger. We're moving the needle in your training every week, month, year, and so on. It's not going to be linear. You're not going to be stronger every single day, every single week. Of course, it's going to look more like this. There's going to be ups and downs. But big picture, we want to make sure that you are moving in that right direction, okay? So trying to get strong, trying to get jacked, it's going to help you many ways. And also, by the way, training to get stronger, training to build muscle, this is actually going to help you continue to burn calories after your workout or after your training session as well. So just keep that in mind for those of you who are like really obsessed with counting calories and tracking calories and all that stuff. That's going to be one of the best things for you guys to pay attention to, because it's not just what's happening while you're in the gym, it's what's happening outside of the gym as well. All right. Next step here. Step 5. Adjust sleep and stress management. Guys, your training and your nutrition and movement is not enough. You got to prioritize your sleep and your stress, and prioritize managing your stress. Now, a few things with this, and there's 2 things that we're talking about, stress and sleep management, and we could talk all day about both of those things, but I want to keep it simple. As far as stress, we talked about cortisol. We talked about how chronically elevated cortisol levels in the blood can be problematic for fat loss. It could also be very catabolic, which means it breaks down muscle tissue. Elevated levels of cortisol could also affect or suppress the natural production of your sex hormones. That's no good, okay? So cortisol, being in that sympathetic fight or flight mode all day, every day, text messages, emails, meetings, putting out fires, stressed out of your mind, work, kids, all this shit. Woosah. Because too much of that stuff will have a negative impact on the things that I just mentioned, as well as your cardiovascular health. Because not only is it cortisol, but those sympathetic state hormones like adrenaline, norepinephrine, and such, when they are chronically elevated, and by the way, add some extra caffeine to that mix, which is going to produce these hormones as well, that could have a very detrimental impact on your cardiovascular health. Okay, so it's important for you guys to be aware of that and realize how stress is that silent killer. And if you don't do things to manage it, you could really create a lot of problems for yourself. Okay, so what are some things to manage it? Well, we talked about getting outside more. Okay, that's one way to do it. But then there's a list of things. Guys, one thing that I've worked into my life and has been a game changer is after my morning walk, I come back inside and just for 5 minutes, I do a little bit of meditation and deep breathing. Some people might laugh at that and be like, how could you meditate in 5 minutes? Call it whatever the fuck you want to call it. I sit there with my eyes closed and I focus on deep breathing, and I have a few things that I repeat to myself over and over again while I'm doing that. And I do my box breathing drills. In through the nose for 5 seconds. I hold for 2 seconds. Exhale through my mouth like I'm blowing through a straw for 8 seconds. And I just repeat that process for that full 5 minutes. That's my way of doing it. I've also gone to therapy for the last 18 years of my life to manage stress and all the shit that I've dealt with in my personal life. I journal. I really focus on personal development, the books that I read, the people that I spend my time with. I really control the things that I allow into my mind. So I do not watch the news. If somebody's really toxic on social media, I don't follow them or I unfollow them. I don't spend much time on social media outside of the stuff that I have to do for work. Mindless scrolling, I do my best to really limit that. The shit that I watch on TV, remember, when you detox yourself from poison foods, you also have to detox yourself from poison people and poison information, because this shit will affect you whether you even realize it or not. So get away from the people that will impact you negatively and cause stress in your life, and do the same with the things that cause you stress. You know, the more you can simplify your life and the more you could remove the things that don't add value, that stress you out, the better off you're going to be. You got to get your mind dialed in, because most people, they don't realize how this affects them. Because we're talking about fat loss. Remember, this is the fat loss blueprint. Stress affects fat loss, but stress also affects everything else in your life, all right? And the person that you are and who you want to become. So stress is a key thing that we have to focus on. Now, the other thing we talked about there is sleep, okay? When you sleep, you're going to secrete hormones like testosterone and human growth hormone. There's a lot of processes that go on with repairing damaged cells when you sleep. There are many things that go on that will improve your cardiovascular health, help prevent Alzheimer's, and things of that nature. So your sleep is one of the most important things that you can do. And yet so many people that I talk to will say, I get 5 hours, I get 6 hours, I get 4 hours. Guys, it's not enough. You know, the studies have shown 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, deep sleep every night, is key for your overall health. All right. Now, with that being said, what are some things you could do for better sleep? So one is you need to be aware. That's why we assessed in the beginning. But next, you know, making sure you know what your bedtime is. Set an alarm for the time that you need to get into bed. Okay, not just the time you need to wake up, but the time that you need to get to bed. You should have an alarm, and at that point, when that alarm goes off, all electronics are done. I recommend putting your phone on airplane mode at least an hour before that alarm goes off. Okay, what I do, my phone goes on airplane mode. I watch about an hour of TV, you know, to kind of just chill out before I go to bed. And so at 9:45, my alarm goes off, but at 8:30, my phone's on airplane mode. So I'm no longer texting or checking emails or anything like that. I'm just kind of doing mindless TV. I'll watch some fights, or I'll watch, you know, whatever it is, documentaries, or just a movie. Just mindless stuff for an hour. And then when my alarm goes off, TV goes off. Before I end my workday, I will plan out what I have to do the next day. Sometimes I'll do a brain dump where I just kind of let my mind dump onto my notebook, and I'll just get all the thoughts out of my head, and I'll do a brain dump. That helps, so those thoughts aren't floating around my mind in the middle of the night. But planning my next day, planning my week, doing the brain dump, making sure I cut off electronics. After that, I make sure my room is cold. I make sure it's dark. There's no electronics in our room. There's no TV. There's no friggin' night lights. There's no any source of light. It's completely blacked out. It's pitch black. Can't see your hand in front of your face. I take a little shower, and then I get into bed, and I pass out. And I sleep like a baby. With my baby, it was pretty rough for the last few months, but the last month and a half, 2 months or so now, he's been sleeping through the night, which has been fantastic. So that's back to normal. But anyway, those are some things that I do. Maybe that will help you, but it's important for you guys to know that 7 to 9 hour mark, and not just in bed, right? Sometimes we're in bed for 8 hours and we think we're getting 8 hours of sleep, but how long did it take you to fall asleep? How many disturbances did you have in the middle of the night? Something like a Whoop strap or an Oura ring could track this stuff for you. So I would really recommend getting something like that. I don't know if Morpheus, I know that's a heart rate monitor, but I'm not sure if they track sleep. But check those out. I've used Whoop before. That's the only one I've ever used, but I've heard really good things about the Oura ring and some of the others. So check those out. See if that might be worth your while. But yeah. The next step here, guys, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the step 5, which is to adjust your sleep and stress management. The final step here, step 6, is recover. Now, recovery starts with sleep. So if your sleep is not up to par, that's our first priority. Like sleep and stress, like that's going to affect your recovery. Let's get that dialed in. But what else will affect your recovery? Well, the amount of calories you're consuming. If you're not eating enough to support the demands of your training, then we need to make sure that we start doing that. Let's get enough food in your system so you can recover. Okay? So calories, sleep, stress management. Now we could talk about other things like sauna and the benefits of sauna, the benefits of cold exposure, massage, right? If you could get a weekly massage or a massage every other week, that's going to be really helpful for you. Float tanks, that's one of my favorite things, by the way. I love going to a float tank and just, sensory deprivation tank. You can't see, you can't hear, you're in pitch black, you're just floating. I've gotten into some really deep meditations, just doing deep breathing drills and that. Breath work is another thing for your recovery. So there's a list of things that you can do based on where you're at. If you're just getting started, let's focus on sleep first and foremost. But if you're somebody who's more advanced and your sleep is dialed in, your nutrition's dialed in, you're training hard, your step count's up there, all right. And by the way, your step count will help with recovery as well. And aerobic activity step count is aerobic activity, but if you do like zone 2 cardio, where it's a little bit more than just going for a walk, that could also enhance your ability to recover. And so sauna, cold plunge, those types of things. For those of you that are more advanced, you want to start doing some of those things, work them in and see how you feel. What I do most consistently is I go from a 30-minute sauna session. The place that I go to only has an infrared sauna, so it gets to about 160 degrees, and I'm in there for 30 minutes. I come out, I dry off for 5 minutes, and then I go right into the cryotherapy chamber, and I do that for 3 minutes, and I feel like $1 million. Don't forget it. I do jiu-jitsu 3 times per week. I do my strength training twice a week. So, and then I have my other conditioning day. So I do a lot of shit. So I got to make sure that I'm recovering. So, and I only do that once a week. At one point I was doing it twice a week and I really felt good. But having that in my routine has been a game changer for me. It really helps me recover and I sleep like a baby that night that I do it. But anyway, you got to do what's right for you. So with that said, guys, when you look at the big picture here, first we need to assess. Then we need to eat to get lean. We need to move more and get your conditioning dialed in. We need to train to get strong and jacked. We need to adjust your sleep and manage stress better. And we need to recover. Now, if you're doing those things, you're going to get lean. You're going to be healthier. You're going to be stronger. All these boxes will be checked. You will be a completely different human being if you do this over the next 6 to 12 months. But it should go on forever. But first, this is your blueprint to get you there. Of course, we could talk specifics about a training split. We could talk specifics about a certain diet, how many calories to dial in, carb cycling, things of that nature. We could take this and make it more advanced, but I can't do that on a podcast. It gets tricky. So I just want to give you guys a general layout, a blueprint, if you will, to fat loss. Because if you follow this blueprint, you will be sliced and motherfucking diced come beach season. So, my friends, thank you so much for tuning in today. If you found this episode helpful, I'm just going to ask you to leave a 5-star review or a quick written review. It is the best way for us to grow the show. So if you could take a minute or two out of your busy day, it would truly mean the world to me. I want to thank you guys for your support. Thank you for listening. And I hope you guys got a lot out of this. So with that said, I'm out of here. I appreciate you guys listening. And I will catch you next week on another episode of the Iron Life Podcast. Peace.